Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me for today's webinar. My name is Avaz and I'm from Team Avaz, a leading provider of assistive technology apps. Today I will be presenting Avaz. There's a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. I'll bring them up at the end of the presentation. Please don't worry about taking notes. You'll receive a copy of this webinar within 24 hours after it ends. Great. Without further ado, I will get started with the demo. So what you see right now is the home screen of the application, and all these words that you see here, these are color coded by Fitzgerald key. So that means in purple we have phrases, in green we have verbs, blue are for adjectives, yellow for means pronouns, and then in orange we have nouns. So in this case, and the screen that you're seeing right now is a level 2 vocabulary. And there are three different levels of vocabulary in Avaz. So we have level 1, level 2, and level 3. The difference between the three levels of vocabulary is a number of words that are made available to each level. So how that is helpful is so a child or a communicator who has a different requirement can use a different level of words that are made available to him at any point of time. So to give you an example, in level 1 vocabulary, you would be able to create a sentence that would say, I pizza, which ideally means I want pizza, but it is not grammatically correct. In level 2 vocabulary, you are able to say, I want pizza. In level 3 vocabulary, you are able to say, I want pizza with a glass of cold lemonade. So that's how more advanced words are made available to you once you progress in a higher vocabulary. So let me just make a quick sentence, and I will say, I want I want pizza. So what you see right now, so once I select a message, it zooms in and zooms out. So what it basically is this is what we call visual reinforcement, and this basically assures the communicator of the selection that they are making. So it is a double check of sorts that okay, the selection that they made is the right one that they wanted. Okay, now most of the times, so most of the time a caregiver is present with a communicator. In this scenario, a caregiver would obviously get them a slice of pizza if they made the sentence that they wanted a slice of pizza. Okay, now let's imagine the child or the communicator did not want pizza and they selected pizza by accident. So what they would do is they would hit the alert button on the bottom right of the screen, and this basically rings a doorbell like song that calls out for the attention of the caregiver. This is immediately followed by the mistake button that is right above the alert button, and this tells the caregiver that the communicator made a mistake in the last sentence that they created and they want to revert back to the previous one. So here what they could do is the communicator could delete the previously selected word, go back, select breakfast, say donut instead. So now they have just corrected the previously made sentence that was I want a pizza and said I want donut now. So if I click on the message box, it speaks out the sentence that I have created that says I want donut. Now as you see that once I selected the message box, along with speaking the sentence, it also showed me a red envelope that is right next to the message box. So clicking on which will basically open an email client that allows the communicator to quickly send a message in an email that they have just created. So I just created the sentence I want donut here, and I can send it to anybody that I want. In this case, I can just send it to myself again, and so that's how easy it is to send an email from within the application itself. And now, so the share option here, you can send messages via different platforms. Right now, I just sent it from email. There are more options to choose from. If you go to settings and go to share Avaz messages, so here you're able to send it from iMessage or Facebook, Twitter, or just disable this option altogether. So if I click it now, it will no longer show the message icon for you to share the message from. If you were on an Android device, instead of iMessage here, you would see WhatsApp. So let me make another sentence that says, okay, now I'll try to make the sentence that says, I want book. I want books. I want. Now I don't know where the word books is. So what I will quickly do is I will search for the word books in search that is on the top of the screen, left to edit, and I will click on it. After which I will search for book, and since I'm a level 2 vocabulary, I can click on C path that is in the line there, and it will basically show me where the word book is so that I can remember it for future uses. So all of this it is doing on its own, and it is guiding me where the word book is. Now, if I click on the word book, now there are these three options that I can choose from. So these are different parts of speech for me to choose from. If I wanted to say books instead of book, I can just click on book and then click on books instead. And it said, I want books now. So this is a grammar option that is enabled by default. If the child doesn't require it, you can go ahead and disable this in the settings. You can go to the settings and scroll down to grammar. After which, if you disable grammar, it will remove this parts of speech option for both the grammar and the keyboard mode, which I'll cover later. Or you could just do it individually for the picture mode or the keyboard mode. So right now, let me just have it enabled. And that is how I just created a sentence using search because I didn't know where the word was. And I also changed, the word from book to books. So going back to the home screen, on the right side, you see the panel core words. So core words are basically those words that an individual uses about 75% of the time during the day. They do not require any context to go along with, as they independently carry meaning. So if somebody were to ask me, for example, whose is this? Whose is this iPad? I would say mine. And what do you want? Where is he? So these one word answers independently can carry an entire meaning, and these can replace entire sentences just for quick communication. So these are code words that are made available for easier access on the home screen itself. Now going back to the home screen, I will create another sentence that says I like code words my. I'll go back to home again, go to people and say teacher. So or say teachers. So as you probably realize that each of the word as I'm selecting it, it is speaking it out. Now that is ideal in most of the cases, but sometimes what happens is if a child is in a classroom like setting, the app would create too much noise and it would actually disturb others if there were others in the same classroom. So ideally in that case, what you would want to do is you would want the application to only speak out the sentence once it is created. So here what you would do is you would go to settings, scroll down to what to speak, and then say speak only message box. So what this basically does is it does not matter how many words you select, as long as you don't click the message box, it will not speak it out. If I just so only after which you speak out the sentence if you have it enabled or disabled. Let me just enable it again. Speak words. So for the picture mode, what I will do is I'll quickly walk you through the settings as to what each of the settings does in this case. So one is the message box right here. So by default it is enabled, but if I disable this, what this will do is this will disable the message box, and this basically gives a communicator an app so that they could in the very beginning that they could play around with. Now for example, if a child is using the application for the first time, you would want to give him the application so that he can play around with and know what each of these words does. So if I click on I, so they get to play around the application, and this would help them get on board much more quicker. This would not overwhelm them as to if they have to create a sentence very quickly or not. So if I just enable it again, and then is the caption position. So we prefer for the caption position to be above, because what happens when it is below? Now this is completely a preference of a communicator, but we prefer for it to be above because what happens is, now let me take an example that I'm trying to select the word I. Now, if I'm trying to select the word I am I am basically covering the letter I, the caption I, with my finger, and I can no longer read it. I can only see the image. But if the position of it is above, I can click on the message, and at the same time, I can read it as well. So, which is why we prefer for it to be above. And then we have the number of, so we have pictures in message box. So what this basically does is, this removes the pictures in the message box. Now, if I would say I want food, it will no longer show me the message, the picture in the message box. It will only show the text. This is helpful for people who do not require any pictures for visual cues. They do not rely on pictures for communication. They just require these texts. This can be used by this can be used in those cases. Next is the pictures per screen settings again. So the pictures per screen can be changed from 1 all the way to 77. So one pictures per screen from 1 to 8 is helpful for people with cerebral palsy, since they cannot navigate, they cannot make fine touches. Since they lack fine motor skills, they cannot navigate between smaller pages. This is very helpful in those cases. So if I just switch it back to 24, and next is the caption size. So caption size can be changed from small, medium, large, or just have only the image or only the text. So in the very beginning, when you're starting to use the application, the child, you might want to have uh, you might want to have the caption size that small, so that they could rely more on the pictures in the very beginning. But as they advance in using the application, you can go and switch it to medium, large, and then eventually, if they do not require visual cues anymore, you could just remove the images altogether. Next is page swipe that you see here. So page swipe is helpful for again people with cerebral palsy, because so what this basically does is, this enables a previous page and the next page option on the right side of the screen, where we previously saw the mistake button and the alert button. So what happens here is, since people with cerebral palsy, they cannot swipe between different pages, they can't make the gesture. We have enabled these two buttons, where they can just click on these to basically navigate between the two pages. So they don't have to swipe now to see a different page. And then is what we call color coding, like I previously mentioned. In the very beginning, you might want to have color coding on, because that helps the communicator understand what part of speech or word belongs to, and this really helps in quicker and efficient communication. But as the communicator uses the application more over time, you might want to reduce the dependency on color coding to understand uh, what word, what part of speech a particular word belongs to, and that you could do this way. So you could, after some time, you could just remove the complete background and say just a stripe, and eventually you would want to remove the color code itself. So you can say don't color code, and this removes the color code altogether. So that was for the picture mode, and now comes the personalization aspect of Avaz. So the thing about Avaz is that it gives you a very wide range of personalization options that can be suited for a wide range of speech-related disabilities. I will show you an example how. But before that, let me just dive into the quick folder that you see on the bottom left of the screen. So the quick folder basically has these quick phrases that a communicator can use to send out a message very quickly. So there are these quick phrases that say good morning,
good night,
hi,
hi,
or even bye. But one of the phrases that I see here is my name is. So my name is Arbaz. So anybody saying the name is that is a sentence that they might use very frequently when anybody tells them their name. And in that case, you would want this to be very easily accessible, the sentence, and personalized. So what I would do is I would go to edit, that is edit right next to the search button, and then click on my name is, then click on change, that is on the top right of the screen. So clicking on which opens this edit screen where I can change the selection here. I can change the caption from my name to say my name is Arbaz, and now it shows an image of Joe, which is there by default. But since I want an image of my own, so what I can do is I can either take one from the gallery by clicking this, or I could take one from the gallery because I have a better one there. So I will just go to gallery and use this one and save it. So if I click on,
My name is Avaz.
it speaks out the sentence for me. And as you can probably see in this case, the sentence is too long to fit into the small message box, which is why we see my NA dot 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 R bars. And that is something I wouldn't want to have because this would probably confuse the communicator. So what I would ideally do in this situation is I can go to edit, click on my name as Arbaz, click on change, and then say speak as. So what I would do here is I will go to my name as Arbaz, I'll change the caption, I'll click for it to say Arbaz, and then speak as I will say my name is Arbaz. So what this is ideally doing here is it will speak out the entire sentence for me, but it will only show Arbaz. So it just says Arbaz now, but if I click on
My
this,
name is
it will
Avaz.
speak out the entire sentence. So now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a sentence that I will use very frequently because of which I would want it to be very easily accessible. So what I will do is I will go to edit again. I'll click on this message. I'll click on copy. I'll go back to the previous page by selecting go back and paste this here. So what this has done is it has created uh, a copy of the same image right in the home screen, and from here I can just click on it, drag it, and place it in a very convenient position for much more easier access. So right now I'm on the home screen, and I will say,
My name is Avaz.
and it'll speak out the sentence for me. So next is adding a new category altogether. So what you could now, for example, if you were a professional, you would want to add a category for the communicator, or if you were a parent and you would want to add a category for the child, a folder of options, let's say a favorite sports team or their favorite cartoon characters. So how you would do that is this way. You could go to setting, or you can go to edit, and then click on add new on the left side of the screen. Right here you see these three options that says add many items together, add a new message, or add a new category. So clicking on the first one basically allows you to add multiple folders and multiple messages at the same time. Clicking on the second option allows you to add just one message, and clicking on the third one allows you to add a folder. So if I click on this third one because I want to add a folder right now, I will say Marvel characters, and yes. So what this has done is this has, so you see this question mark, right? Now this question mark, it is showing because it could not recognize a picture from the images, from the library of images that we have. So what I will do is so there are two things I can do here to add a picture for Marvel characters. I can either go to the internet and look for an image of Marvel characters, save it to my gallery, and then upload one from here. Or in a more convenient way, I can just click on web. Okay. Sorry about that. My internet seems to have disconnected. So as you can see that clicking on, if I go to the web option here, it allows me to fetch images from the web that I can choose from within the application itself, right here. And if I click on save, This folder is created automatically. And after creating this folder, I would want to add more options to it. So I would go to edit, I can add new, and I can add multiple items together. So let me just add multiple items that say Thor, Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Thanos. So I will just select OK, and it has automatically it has created all of these words in one go. And as you can probably see that the word Spider-Man, for the word Spider-Man, it has automatically fetched an image because we had an image of Spider-Man in a library, but for Thor, Iron Man, and Thanos, it did not. So in that case, what I can do is I can just quickly go to select Thor, click change, and then click on web. It will very quickly take a picture from the internet. Same goes for Iron Man, and same as for Thor, Thanos. Now I have created all of these words together. Now if I click on Thanos,
Thanos,
it speaks out the word wrongly. The actual pronunciation is Thanos. It is not Thanos. But why it is doing that is because Thanos is not really a very common name, which is why it does not know how to pronounce it. The synthesized voice that we have. So here what I could do is I can go to edit, I can click on Thanos and select change, after which I can spell it the way I wanted to pronounce it. So I can go to speak as and then say Thanos. And if I save it,
Thanos,
so now it is pronouncing it correct, that is Thanos. So in some cases, what happens is a child does not. So synthesized voices is not helpful for to communicate or a child because they're not really familiar with it, and they're much better. Um, so they're much more comfortable with using a voice of a parent or a teacher or a family. So in that case, what you could also do is you could go to edit. In this case, in this example, I'll take Thanos again. I'll click on change, and then I will delete the word, and now I am able to record my own voice for this message and say Thanos. I will save it, I will exit it, and I will say Thanos. So now I have my own voice for the word Thanos, and that is how I could just add my own voices, custom voices for each of these words. Now, in some cases, now let's imagine a scenario where you are a professional and you're adding about 50 images at a time. Now you really don't have the time to go about adding one image one by one, and you want to do all of this together and just complete this job at one go. So just for the sake of an example, let's imagine that you created 50 words in the screen here, that we had 50 Marvel characters instead of 4, and you would only want to introduce 2 at one time. So you'd want to introduce 2 in week 1 and another 2 in week 2, and then simultaneously you'd add more words as you go ahead and use the application. So how I would do that is I will go to edit, I will click on Thanos and Iron Man, then I will select hide. So if I click on hide, these are basically hiding these words, and all these hidden words are grayed out. So that means they can no longer be seen once you exit the edit option. And now if I exit this, I can no longer see Iron Man and Thanos. To enable it again, I just do the reverse thing. I go to edit, I click on Iron Man and Thanos, and I just show it again. So this is helpful when you only want to introduce a couple of words at a time and not bombard the communicator with a lot of words so that it does not confuse them. So that was for the keyboard mode. Now I'm going to show you what the backup and restore option that we have here. So how this is helpful is, now let's imagine a scenario where a child has a device at a school or the therapy center, and they have a particular layout of the application. They have added words, custom words, custom personalization on the device, and they would want the same layout and the same personalization to also be on a device that they might use at home, say on a parent's one, or a parent might have 2 devices and you would want both the devices to have the same level of personalization that you have added. In that case, what you would do is you can go to settings and then go to backup and restore, and then from here you are So the first time you go to the screen, you're basically prompted to connect to a Dropbox account. So once you connect to a Dropbox account, you're asked to enter your Dropbox email ID and password, which takes less than 30 seconds to set up. And then once you have to set up, you're able to create backups right here. You click on this and then you're able to create a backup of a device. And then you're also able to restore from any of the backup that you have created. Now, for example, if a parent had two devices, um, one iPad and another Android device, and they would use ours on one device, and they would also want the same level of personalization and the same data to be on the other Android device. So they would use the Dropbox account. They would log into a Dropbox account on both the devices. They would create a backup on the iPad, and they would be able to restore the same backup on the other device. So that way, the data remains same between the two devices. So after which, so we have another thing that we call print PDF. If I go to food, and now for example, a child sometimes does not have a device at home because they have the devices at school or the therapy center, and the old for an AAC intervention to be completely successful, it needs to be continuous. So it needs to happen at home just as much it happens at school. So in that case, what you would want to do is, in case a child doesn't have a device at home, or let's imagine that he goes to his grandmom's or he's at a beach where he doesn't have access to a device, but he still wants to communicate. So what they would do is they can basically create a PDF file, a PDF format of the entire Avaz vocabulary. So what this means is you're able to convert the layout of Avaz from high tech to low tech. So you're able to create a PDF book which you're able to print out, stick it to a binder so that you can have a physical copy to use anywhere. How that happens is you click on edit, you go to print, you say make an Avaz book in this category, and this basically generates a PDF format with the same layout and the same level of personalization as you have on the application. So this you're basically able to email to yourself, print it out, and then use it on a binder. So that was for the print a PDF option here. Next is the keyboard mode. I can go to the keyboard mode by clicking on the keyboard on the top left of the screen, and this gives me a layout of the keyboard. So, so a keyboard is very helpful for a communicator who wants to quickly create sentences, and this allows them to make sentences very quickly. So I would say, for an example, I would say I,
I want,
and I will change the figure of speech to wanted
wanted to
to.
eat pizza.
So I wanted to eat pizza, and
I wanted to eat pizza.
so this is how I just created here. And as you could see that I had the grammar option enabled here, and I changed the word from want to wanted. And most of this, so there is also prediction involved in these sentences. So I will show you how that works. If I said
I think that
um, uh,
the movie was good.
as you probably saw that the words that I created initially, I used most of them from the prediction bar, and that really enabled me in making these sentences very, very quickly as compared to if I was in a picture mode or if I were typing it by myself. So that is the prediction that is involved here. So if you choose to disable the prediction altogether, that is something you can do by going to settings and scrolling down to prediction, and I can disable the prediction altogether and just remove the prediction bar, or I can have prediction enabled but with a little bit of lag, a delay. So what that does is, if I said
I want.
it will wait for 3 seconds before it shows me the next option to choose from. So that is how you can enable delay here in prediction. I can just So let me make another sentence that says
I
I
feel like going to the movies.
so I feel like going to the movies is a sentence that I created, and I want this to be available for easier access. So what I would do is I would just hit save, and I will save it to the word M because M stands for movies. And now since I have assigned this sentence to a particular key, if I click on load and if I hit save, if I hit M, it will basically quickly load the entire sentence that was created there. So I will just select delete, click on load and click on M, and then again I just have the sentence without having to enter it manually. Another option is if I said uh, I
I
love.
love Dad.
Now this is a sentence that I created and I want it and I want this available for easier access. I will say click it and I will say save, and I will replace this with I'll replace one of the messages on the top bar with this message that I created by. So now it has replaced the top message with I love dad. If I click on this,
I love Dad.
it will speak the
I
sentence very
love
quickly.
Dad.
Now we also have a bit of spell check that is integrated into Avaz. An example that works here is so I
I
love.
love the
So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to spell the word ocean wrong, and it has predicted that I probably mean ocean, and it has given me suggestions for the word ocean here. So I click on this,
ocean.
and I have basically corrected the spelling of the word that I just wrote. In the keyboard mode, you also have the option to change the layout from ABC to QWERTY. That is something that depends on the requirement or the requirement of the child or the communicator. So that was for the keyboard mode. After which we have the dashboard that is in the top left. So you're able to access the dashboard by clicking on dashboard on the top left of the screen. So dashboard is basically an onboarding platform for parents, and it also helps communicators quickly know how to use the application. A classic example would be Practice Now. If I click on Practice Now, I get these templates that are already there for me to practice. So if I clicked on I like pancakes, it will now basically teach me how I can create the sentence. If I were new to AAC and if I were new to Avaz, I would say I.
I
If I click on any other option, it doesn't allow me to do that. Now I need to go to the actions only,
like
like.
pancake.
So this is how I just created the sentence, and it basically taught me how I can create these sentences. And so next is my sentences. So my sentence is basically a more advanced version of practice now, where you are able to add your own custom sentences for you to practice. So in the beginning of this demo, I just created a word that is Spider-Man, and I will just add it here. I love Spider-Man, and I will add this. So now if I try it now, it will again show me how I can make,
I
make the sentence. It is asking me to swipe right. I'm going asking me to go to sensations, love,
love
going back home, swipe right again, and
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. That is how I just did that by myself. And so we have a game that we call Communication Adventures that is built within the application, and that you can access by clicking on Let's Learn Strategies. So this game is about a boy, and his name is Johnny, and he is a 7-year-old boy on the spectrum. And this is a scenario where this is a game where basically a parent or someone who wants to learn how to communicate with the child on the spectrum, it basically teaches them how to do so. So there is a scenario here that says it's 7 o'clock in the morning. Johnny is in the kitchen, start a conversation with him, and there are three options for me to choose from. Isn't it a beautiful and lovely morning? Good morning, Johnny. And hi, Johnny. I was wondering if you slept well last night. So if I click on the first one, basically it gives me a frown and that tells me that I made the wrong selection. Also it tells me that try to keep your language simple. Johnny might find complex and abstract language difficult to understand, which means this was the wrong option in this case. And now if I say good morning, Johnny, it will give me a positive point on the left side of the screen. And now there is a second scenario, second case, where I get to choose from three options that says it's time for breakfast. Do you want sandwiches, pancakes, or something different? I have apples, oranges, sandwiches, and pancakes. Which one do you want? So if I click on the first one, basically the word that I've selected is very vague. It doesn't have enough information for them to understand. So I will go for, let me just try the third one now. That says, that has too many options. And then it will say, providing too many choices can be confusing for Johnny. Remember, he is just beginning to communicate. So here I would go for the second one now. And this tells me that I made the wrong selection. So this is where communication adventures is helpful to learn basically how to communicate well with a child on the spectrum. And there are many levels for in here for you to play. Then there's analytics. So analytics basically gives a professional an overview of how the app is being used by the communicator. So if I go to May. So from the 8th May to 16th August, I have used about 27.4% of vocabulary on this application. And if I change the slider from frequently used to all words used, it shows me all the words that have been used over time. And the darker ones, so the words that are darker in color means they have been used more. If I switch the view from cloud to radar, it will show me how many times each of these words have been used. If I go to timeline, it will show me the main length of utterance, which basically means what is the average number of words that is being used in a sentence. And then is resources. So resources are a bunch of tips that you can use for AAC. And in research, we also have research-based articles about AAC again. So then we have community, clicking on which basically takes you to the Facebook page of ours, that is where we have a bunch of parents and professionals talking about how they use Avaz on a daily basis and how they so if they come across a problem with a child, how they use Avaz to tackle those problems or have a workaround. So that is what we discuss in the group there. So next is Avaz Life. And Avaz Life right now is pretty much in the experimental phase. It works fine, but there are a couple of bugs that we're still working on. But this still is pretty much accessible. So what Avaz Life does is, Avaz Life allows a professional therapist to provide therapy remotely. So how this works is a therapist is able to start a new session from their device, and this generates a login ID and password, and then the student or the communicator connects to the same session, enters the same login ID and password, and this basically starts a video conversation like you would do on Skype or any other video calling platform. You're also able to see them and hear them at At the same time, the therapist, the professional, is able to control the screen of the child, of the communicator, and able to teach them how to make sentences remotely. That is for Avaz Life. And now I will cover the settings that we are left with. So settings here is one is high contrast and low contrast. So this is helpful for people with visual impairment. So high contrast also applies to the picture mode as the keyboard mode. And the next is the home screen vocabulary that one can choose from level 1, level 2, and level 3. As you can see, the more words are available, made available to you as you have as you go on a higher level of vocabulary. And then you have the voices. So there are a bunch of voices for any professional, for any communicator to choose from. So there is.
My name is Ivy. I can speak anything.
Hello. My name is Joey. I can speak.
Hello. My name is Sally.
So there are these bunch
I
of
can
voices that any
speak
communicator can choose
Hello.
from to use.
Hello.
And
My name
another
is
example
Justin.
is, so
I can
Avaz is
speak
available in a
anything
bunch
you
of
want me to
languages. It is
say
available in
with clear
French,
voice.
Danish.
Try me.
It is available in French, Danish, Vietnamese, 6 Indian regional languages. It's available in Sinhala. It's also available in Swedish. So, so for example, if there is a language that you require AAC in, so it's pretty easy to customize. So I will show you how that works. If I go to voice, if I wanted to personalize Avaz for a French speaking communicator, I can go to French.
Hello. Ispea.
Uh,
Hello. Ispea. Hello. Ispea French di conspea anything you know to say with
so instead of yes,
you.
I will say I'll change it to. I hope that's the right spelling. And if I click on oui,
Oui.
so it now it pronounces the word oui in French because I've selected the voice to be in French and I have changed the spelling of it that says oui. I can also change the speed of the voice, fast, medium to slow, and I can also select auto speak. Like I previously mentioned, it can be set from speak everything, speak words, or speak only message box. So clicking on speak everything will basically, so the app will speak out every action word as well. It will say,
Keyboard.
oh,
Picture.
I have to switch it back to the normal one. And if I set core words,
My words. I made a mistake.
so it says out all these action words as well. And then finally we have the add password option. So this basically adds a password for the entire edit settings and dashboard mode. Because what happens is sometimes the child might accidentally or not really so accidentally delete a word or change the layout of the application or just move around or delete make any changes to the application generally. For which you can add a password that says if I just said Q and Q and now I have added a password. If I click on settings, it will basically prompt me to enter a password, only after which I can access it. And same goes for edit. So that was for the settings. And finally, we reach the help option. So if I go to help, now for example, if you ever to require any support from Avaz, you can directly reach us from within the application itself, and you don't have to go to our website, look for our emails or try different channels for support. You can just directly go to the application and send us a ticket, send us a message, and we will be communicating with you from our support desk, and everything will happen within the application itself. So clicking on explain the screen basically opens up this message, this screen that tells you about what each of these buttons does. And then FAQs are basically all these FAQs that are made available for use. And that was for the demo. So, so I've covered pretty much all that I've required, that I wanted to. So I'll take some questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box in your control panel. If you do not have any questions right now, you can always reach out to me later. My email is arbaz, ARBAAZ at avazapp.com. I will enter it right in the message box. And if you were ever to require any support, you can reach to me directly. And one more thing that I would like to add is, if you were a parent or if you're a parent in this case, and if you're looking to purchase Ava's application, I am glad to provide you with a discount of 20% on the total cost of Avaz. You can just reach out to me for the same on Avaz at my email. And if you were a professional for an organization, I'm also glad to do a bigger bulk discount on the whole price. In both the cases, you can reach out to me at the email that I've just entered there. So the questions can be entered on the panel that is on the right side of the screen. If you click on the questions tabs, you're able to enter questions from where I'll be able to answer them. Also, if you're an organization that is looking to have a personalized one-to-one demo for your entire staff, I'm glad to do that as well. You can again reach out to me on the same email that I've just entered in the chat below, and we would set that up. Uh, Okay, so we have a question from Mandy. So thanks for asking this question, Mandy. So how you can basically do this is, um, now let's take an example for the word Marvel characters. If I wanted to hide this, I'm able to go to, I should go to edit on the top of the screen, click on Marvel characters, and then hide it. So now since I have hidden this folder, I will, so since the folder is hidden, it is grayed out, and if I exit the edit option, I'm no longer able to see it. And to enable it again, I will just go to edit again, and this shows me the grayed out folder, that is a hidden folder here. I click on show. So now, again, I can see the folder again. I hope that answered your question. All right, do we have any more questions? I'm glad to take any. Sure. So the question is from Mandy. If I can review one more time how to add a picture word from a folder to the home screen. Okay. So so if I got this right, you're basically asking me if I can move a word previously. Okay. Okay, now for example, if I was in a quick folder,
Click.
um,
Go back.
let me just take an example of Marvel characters here, or food. Now, now the word food is inside the food folder, and I want this to be in the front screen, on the home screen. So what I will do is, I will go to edit, I will click on food, and I will copy it. After copying this, I click on go back, that is on the right side of the screen, and click on paste. That basically brings the food to the home page. After which I'm able to click on it and drag it to the more convenient place that I want it to be. And if I exit this, the word food is in the main folder now. Hope that answers your question. I'm glad to repeat it if you would like it. So we have another question from Wendy. Could you please show the options to add frequently used sentences again? Thank you. I would love to do that. Before, let me just uh, remove the password. And okay, for easier understanding, since some of you joined later in the demo, I will just okay. Now I will basically be showing how you can uh, add frequently sentences again. Now the frequently used sentences are in the quick fold on the bottom left of the screen. Clicking on which are these phrases, and these phrases are usually used most of the times for quicker access. In this case, if now there is this phrase that I see that is my name is, and
My name
and
is.
I want to customize this for my own self. I'll click on my name is. I will click change. I will say my name is Arbaz, and then add a picture of my own if I like, uh, and then save it. So this way I'm able to customize a phrase that is there for quicker communication. And these phrases are these phrases are those sentences that are more frequently used. So now, for example, if there's
Good
one good
job.
job, I
I
don't
don't
know,
know. I
I don't
don't
understand.
understand.
So
Clear.
these phrases also you can click multiple phrases, say these, copy them, go back to the previous screen, and then paste them there. So now since this is the main screen now, I can just drag it and drop it for easier access. So these are very frequently used sentences. So does that answer your question, Wendy? Okay, so we have another question that says, is there any possibility to add special characters to the keyboard? We are using Avaz in a different language and we would need special characters. Great question. So, so what we can do in this case is, let's say you're basically able to add a keyboard from the settings. If I just go to settings real quick, add another keyboard, and I will say Danish, for example. Now, if I wanted to change the word yes
Yes.
to something in Danish, I can just click on Caption, change the keyboard from dance, and then so some of these characters here, these are special characters that are made available in different languages. Or if I was in this one, now you see these different characters that are available, and you can add these characters from the keyboard itself, and this will speak out the way you would want it to. So does that answer your question? No, so there is this question that says, is it possible to translate the "I made a mistake" button to a different language? Unfortunately, no. At the moment, we are not able to translate this to a different language. But what we could do is we can change the accent of which it is spoken with. So you can click on settings, and then it is not really handy. But say if I change the voice and change it to French, for example,
Hello. J'espère.
this would speak it out in a French kind of accent. I would say.
J'ai made a mistake.
So it doesn't really work as well as we would like it to, because this version of Avaz is made for the English-speaking audience, English-speaking communicators. But as I mentioned earlier, Avaz is available in other languages as well. Avaz is available in English, Swedish, French, Danish, Sinhala, Vietnamese, and 6 Indian regional languages. And we're also introducing a Faroese version very soon. That should be out in a month. But okay, so the question here is if the keyboard, so if the keyboard in different language works in the keyboard mode. So
Keyboard.
no, that it does not work that way. You're only able to have the custom keyboard if you were to add custom words for a sentence. If you would want to add edit a particular word, that is where you can use a custom keyboard from the system that from the iPad that gives it to you. In the keyboard mode right here, you're only able to use the keyboard mode in English. I'm still taking more questions, so if you guys have any, you can still type them into the question box. Okay, so I'll have to come to a hard stop. If you guys have questions again, you can just email them to me. I have just entered my email in the chat box. I'm going to enter it again. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to me, and I'm glad to help you. So that's all for the demo for now. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure being with you today. Um, so, as I mentioned earlier, I'm glad to inform you that if you're a professional, I can provide you with a full version of Avaz for evaluation purposes. And if you're a parent, I can offer you an extended 2-week trial. In either cases, please feel free to reach out to me at my email. And thanks again for joining me today. You all guys have a good day. I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.